very first question that Grant Cardone asked me was, how much money do you have in the bank? And I replay that question almost every day in my mind, because a lot of things that has happened to me has been since I connected with the Cardones and Elena and Pete, and that day I could have got offended. I could have that's not your business. Right. He even went and said, that watch, you should have on that watch, and I said, why not? He said, because you should invest in real estate. I said, why can't I have on a watch and invest in real estate? And then the next day I wired him $5 million.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Money Mondays. I am very excited about this episode because my guest is matching with me outfits today. We have Stormy Wellington in the building. She is one of the largest brands in the space. I'm really excited to have her here. Stormy, please tell the audience, who is Stormy Wellington?
Well, first of all, it is an honor to be here. Money Mondays. I mean, I love that. It feels like the first day of the week means go get some money.
Exactly.
So many people call me Coach Stormy. I've been involved in many different industries, but my claim to fame came through the industry of network marketing and direct sales. I've been in network marketing for over 14 years. But, before network marketing, I was just a regular girl who, high school dropout, teenage mom. I come from foster care. I remember living in foster care for 3 years. My mom sold drugs. My dad, I have a story where I tell people my dad was working his job for 29 years. So I call it, rich dad, hustling mom. So I was able to see the best of both worlds. When I had my child at 15, it, caused me to have to drop out of school to stay home to take care of my son. And then, of course, when you don't have money, you got to figure out ways to get money. Mm-hmm. And so I found myself actually at a very young age in a strip club. So I was once a stripper. I once trafficked drugs. I once sold drugs. I once was a shoplifter. I once stole people's identity and became them. So I did a lot of things. And I love to tell the truth of where I come from, because now I'm a wealth coach. I show professionals and non-professionals how to make money on the internet through affiliate marketing, direct sales, network marketing, through creating their own digital products. And I've been in this space now for 14 years, and my goal is to continue to evolve. I'm a mom. I have 3 kids. I have a 26-year-old, I have a 23-year-old, and a 9-year-old. I'm single.
You're on the right show.
Exactly. I'm single.
The money show.
And I finally wrote my list. So, I know what I want out of life. And so I'm very clear on what I want. I'm very clear on where I'm going. And at this phase of my life, I'm unstoppable.
Wow. Fun fact, I have set up 14 couples. 11 of them are married. And one just announced their engagement yesterday. Okay. So if I think of anyone for you, I'm going to let you know.
Hey.
Okay.
All right.
So on the Money Mondays, we only talk about 3 things. How do people make money? How do they invest money? How do they give it away to charity? So let's start with the first part. How did you decide to get into network marketing?
Wow. So it really was not something I ever saw myself doing. I literally thought network marketing was a scam. I thought that, oh, my God, they're going to jail. It's a pyramid. And really it's because I didn't know what it was. I just was copying what everybody else said, And so my first introduction to network marketing was Mary Kay. I got into Mary Kay, and it didn't work for me, and so I really thought it was a scam. Mm-hmm. But I didn't work it.
Right.
And, that was when I was about 19 years old. When I turned 28, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, with a dream of becoming successful. And I never forget, I was doing real estate, and, this was around the time when the market crashed, so I got in right when it crashed. And I was going through some really tough times, and I ended up, trying to find ways to rent out my house. And I called this contractor over, and he was like, listen, I found someone that can rent your house, and, let's get your basement fixed up because we could get more money if the basement is done. And he, in that very moment, leans over and says, hey, do you or anybody want to lose 5 pounds in 5 days without diet, exercise, surgery, or pills? And I'm like, you trying to call me fat? And that was actually his pitch. And the very next day, I was able to meet his wife. He told me how amazing his wife was and how she was making $60,000 a month. And of course I didn't believe it, but it was something about her. I said, well, if she's at least telling 1% of the truth, if I could make an extra $600, because I was making $13 an hour at my job. Mm-hmm. Many people don't know this, but I used to do collections. I was the girl that'd call you to pay your cell phone bill. Mm-hmm. And you'll say, I'm not here, and it'd be you, but I found ways to get you to say, this is me. And so I was able to collect over $1 million wow. in closed accounts in 1 year on my job. and my job offered me a 25-cent raise after that. And that's when I really realized that I need to figure it out. And so I remember the meeting, and I ended up getting into network marketing, not thinking I was going to get rich. I really was looking for a way to make an extra $500. And so I got in, and I've always been a hustler. I've always been a go-getter, as I told you before. And so I just went to work. I went to work telling all my friends about it, which nobody accepted the offer. But I believed in the product so much that I went outside of just my friends, and I would go to Walmarts and Targets and beauty salons and barbershops. And literally, I made my first $100 like my first week, and it made a believer out of me. And so I went very aggressive at it. I quit my job the first week in network marketing, and I would just go to work every day. And a year later, I became a 7-figure earner in network marketing.
Wow.
And that's when I realized that network marketing was, to me, the very a fair industry. Is fair. If you get in and you work it, it works.
Why do you think when people get into network marketing, there's some that are shining stars that become 6-figure, 7-figure earners, and then there's a lot of people that just kind of fade away, and then they try it for a little bit, and then they just have that story like you had with Mary Kay, where they're just like, yeah, didn't work for me.
I think that people, for some reason, I don't know why, I can't figure this out. It's like they lose their common sense. Like you get into network marketing and you forget that you know people. You forget that you can hustle. You forget that it's a numbers game. It's like all of your common sense about making money goes out the door. And then I think that, a lot of people don't like rejection. So, I mean, you go home and you tell your family, your mom, your sister, your husband, or your wife, I found a great business, and they go, that's a scam. And you're already afraid of rejection. You already are afraid to communicate. And then next thing you know, you're just discouraged. So most people don't have a backbone. Most people are just weak. And so they quit everything. And so I think that it's because they just have that, I guess, discouragement from the family. And once your family discourages you, especially the people that you think are supposed to support you, because my mom was the one who told me that you're stupid. Like my mom, she was brutal. She was like, man, you're stupid. You quit your job for that scam.
Wow.
And I remember I used to leave the house every morning at 9 o'clock. And I wouldn't come home until I made $150 a day. And I remember my mom used to look at me and shake her head and be like, you're stupid. Every day I would leave the house. And she was the reason why I actually did network marketing. And I wanted to prove to her that, you're wrong, I'm not stupid. So I just think people they're weak. A lot of people are just weak, and network marketing is not for the weak.
So someone that's out there listening, they're considering, how do they decide what type of a company or brand or product? Like, how do they decide which one that they could work with or feel comfortable with?
So what I do is, everything that I use on a daily basis, I sell it. I believe, you live it or it dies, So, I sell lip gloss. I have my own lip gloss company. I love beautiful skin, so I have my own skincare company. I used to have an issue with using the bathroom. And so when my network marketing company came to me, and the flagship product was, cleanses and detoxes and energy supplements and weight loss, I mean, more people want to lose weight than gain weight. Everybody's not sexy and slim like you, Dan, right? But most people want to lose weight. And so for me, I like to find companies that match what I like to do every day. So when you like to do something, you don't have to sell it. Like when you like to do something, it doesn't feel like work. So I think when you find a company that meets, who are you? What do you like to do? A lot of times people say that you can't make money doing what you like to do. A passion is a passion, but a passion and a hobby is two different things. So I just believe that find what fits your personality. What do you like to do? Do you like credit? Do you like weight loss? Do you like skin? Do you like, credit repair? Or what do you like? Find what you like. And I promise you there's a company that you can get involved with that's direct sales, network marketing, or a product that you can sell.
So I have a similar outlook when it comes to investing. So during my speech, I explain, everyone in the room, please raise your hand if you think that Walmart will still be here in 5 years.
Yes.
Who thinks that Apple will still be here in 5 years?
Yes.
What about Netflix? Who watches Netflix here? Well, if you like Netflix and you paid $20 a month for it, why don't you buy $20 a month of their stock? If you like Apple because you buy a $900 phone every single year, what if you bought $900 of their stock?
I like that.
It's the thing that you just said. It's the things that you like or that you use. If you go to Walmart that often, why don't you invest a little bit in Walmart?
Exactly.
Okay. So Stormy makes money outside of network marketing.
Right.
You're a speaker, you're a coach, you have masterminds and seminars and courses. Tell us about the Stormy world. How can people either learn from you, buy from you, see you on stage? Tell us about that part of the world.
So one of the things I find is that high touch. Everybody uses technology, but I just love high touch versus high tech. I just believe that technology can never replace the human spirit. So everything that I do, I try to find ways to give people access, because I would not be the woman I am today if I did not get in the environment. I believe that it's not necessarily what's taught, it's what's caught. So I have a community. So when you're big in network marketing, like everybody wants to be your friend and everybody wants to know you and everybody wants to talk to you and everybody wants to learn from you, and it could be overwhelming. So what I end up having to do is I had to start a community. So I started a girl community called Girl Hold My Hand, and that community is really designed for women. We have some men, but it's designed for women to get to know themselves, to love themselves, and to embrace themselves in order to authentically connect, collaborate, and celebrate with other people. One of the main things I also feel like people suffer from is imposter syndrome. They get in a room and one minute they know they want to do hair or be a beautician, and the next minute they want to be an author, or one minute they want to be a coach that teaches you how to brand, and then they hear me and then they want to be a coach that teaches you how to know yourself. So I have a community to help women to just fall in love with themselves, their authentic self, whether people like you or not. Like, it's okay to be authentic. Whatever that means to you, be you. So I have my Girl Hold My Hand community. It's women from all around the world, women from Africa, Dominican Republic, UK. I mean, you name it. It's a very diverse community. Makes me proud to see the amount of diversity, because there was a point in time in my life where I thought that I was for the black women. Now I realize that, oh my God, I'm for people. Anyone that feels like, wait a minute, the least, the last, and the lost. So my community, Girl Hold My Hand. I also I do masterminds, and I have I do at least 6 events every year. Wow. One of my favorite events is called The Awakening. We used to do it twice a year, but now we do it once a year. And this event is like 1,000 people. At least 19 women come to that event every year, suicidal. And I was sharing with you earlier today that it's mind blowing. And a lot of people don't know this, but when you are happy and when you feel good, your skin complexion changes. And so one of the things that I observed from my event, The Awakening, is that you come one complexion and you leave 5 shades lighter. So my event, I do it at least once a year. I try to do it around my mom's birthday, and she's deceased. So as a way to just tell her thank you for all that she's done, even though she's no longer living, I do this event every year. And so you can reach me at Coach Stormy on Instagram, or go to girlholdmyhand.com.
Why do people need coaches? Why is it useful for them to have a coach?
Wow. So I would not be who I am and where I am today if I did not have a coach. Like, I mean that. And I'm not saying that because my name is Coach Stormy. As a matter of fact, my name became Coach Stormy because Stormy Wellington was taken on Instagram. So I wasn't a coach at first. So, like, names are powerful. So I had to live up to the name that I got. But a coach is a shortcut to success. Like, if I told you that I know how you could get to LA in an hour versus 10 hours, would you rather take the 10-hour route or the 1-hour route? Mm-hmm. So people, especially I could tell you right now in my community, like, we don't understand how powerful a coach is. A coach's job is to take that person from where they are to where it is that they desire to go. Even today, we heard Tom Brady on the stage, and he kept edifying his coach. Right. A coach is going to push you. A coach is not supposed to make you comfortable. A coach is going to push you to your max, like in the gym. You'll stop at tired, but the coach should get you to do 5 more reps. So a coach is everything. I encourage every person that's aspiring to be successful, to do more in life, to identify, number one, how far you want to go, and then find someone that has already accomplished what it is that you want, and find a way to get their attention. Right? You got to pay your way into their life, serve your way into their life, or earn your way into their life. Everybody that is successful can tell you some way, somehow, it was a coach or a mentor. Coaches and mentors are everything.
So you also get paid to speak at corporate events, business events, etc. That is considered the number one fear of most people. How did you get over your fear of public speaking?
How did I get over my fear? First of all, I mean, when you open your mouth, you tell people who you are. If I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I always saw myself as a millionaire, and working a job was not going to cut it. So when I got into network marketing, I remember my coach, or my mentor, shall I say, he was about 30 years older than myself, and his style was different. I remember the first time he did a launch call for me, At the time, he was making about 40,000 a week, and I was like, man, if I could just get 1,000 a week, my life would change. And I listened to him, and I'm like, man, nobody's gonna join me with this guy. He was model tone. He was older. You could hear the elderly tone in his voice, and I love him to this day. But I said, if this guy keeps doing my calls, nobody's gonna sign up because he didn't have what attracted my people. So it was like I had no choice. And so I would practice in the shower, I would practice in the car, I would practice on people. And I never forget, one of my mentors told me, like, what you lack in skills, you make up in numbers. And he also told me that when you make a mistake, because you don't know what you're necessarily talking about, the other party doesn't know. You just got to be confident and say it confidently, and they just don't know. And so I would try it. And, I fumbled the ball a lot, but eventually I figured it out. And so, I do a call every Monday called Wake Up and Win. I've been doing that for 9 years.
Wow.
And so I'm always practicing. So Wake Up and Win to the World is a place where people come. I have at least 4,000 people every Monday at 9. They're coming to get fed, but I'm practicing every day. So I just believe use it or lose it. What you lack in skills, you make up in numbers, just keep doing it. And eventually you'll figure it out. I never did Toastmasters, or I never hired a speech coach, or I never any of that. And I also would go to events, and I would watch the person speak, and I'll say, I like that joke. I like how he moves. I like how she talks. I like her tone. I like how she influx her voice and bring it down. And, I like that. So I would go to events and listen to people and take what I liked, and I'll steal it. And I'll borrow it and copy the white cat.
I love it. Okay, so we talked about some of the ways that Stormy makes money and other people that are listening could make money. Now let's talk about investing.
Okay.
Once you start making some money, start making your first 50 grand a year, then 80 grand, then 100 grand, then six figures and millions of dollars. What are some of the things that you like to invest into, and what should people out there be considering as they're starting to start earning some capital so they don't just go spend it everywhere, they start investing?
So funny. So a few things that I invest in. So I have a lot of fine art at my home. I have artwork with certificates that I don't know if I'm going to cash it in one day or pass it down to my kids, but it just feels good to have expensive art. That's one place that I've invested money. I've also invested in to Cardone Ventures. I invested $5 million with Grant. I don't like real estate like that, but if I can have someone manage my money and pay me every month, and then one day I'm going to get a big payday, I like those type of things. I don't like to invest in things that I don't want to do physically. So I'd rather partner with people that has the knowledge and the ability to manage it. So I've invested with Cardone. I've invested in some crypto things. It's a little tricky, but I still have invested in some crypto things. And I have a couple of houses that I bought in Detroit. Again, I realized that I don't like managing property, so I just collect a little bit of rent money. And now my major goal is to invest in some apartment complexes. Nice. So my goal is to make more cash flow and not just give it to Grant and let him invest it, which that's a part of what I like to do too. But I want to buy my own apartment complex. I want 1,000 doors. And I want it to be like economical for people to be able to stay there. So that's my bigger goal.
So I started a real estate mastermind simply because I wanted to be around real estate people. And I wanted to listen, like just be around them and hear them talk about Bobby Castro's got $700 million of apartments. I just want to be around and listen to Bobby Castro, right?
Wow.
Brad Sumrock and Jen, his wife, they have 9,000 doors. I just want to be around and listen and like, why'd you do that? Why do you buy in these states? Why do you do this? Why do you not like this? What kind of accounting do you like? And I'm the owner of the mastermind, and I want to be around it just to like absorb it, you know, like because when you're around it, it's like you said, you can see it, feel it.
Smart. I love it.
Okay, so on the investing side, the whole reason for the Money Mondays is I want people to actively think about investing and feel comfortable doing small investments, mini investments, etc., as they grow through their careers and lives, because a lot of money gets wasted.
Yes.
And it's frustrating to see. We've seen it with athletes and rappers, and entertainers and friends and business people and network marketing, everybody in between. They start making 100 grand, 200 grand, 500 grand, etc., and their overhead becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right.
But
I can tell you this too. I just thought about it, and this may not be as exciting for you, but I also invest in bags and watches.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I have
like Birkins.
Yeah. So like this is one of my This is my ostrich Birkin.
Yes.
I paid like $65,000 for this. I could sell this bag right now for at least like $90,000. I remember I bought a AP. This is not it. I bought an AP for like 100 grand. When I first wanted it, it was like 60 grand. I was being cheap. I bought it for 100. No, I bought it for 125 grand. Right now, I could sell that watch. For my jeweler would buy that watch back for me for 250,000.
Wow.
I bought a Patek. So I have like 16 rare watches that I don't know if I'm going to sell them one day or keep them one day.
Right.
You know, keep them for the rest of my life. I don't know, but I like to also invest in things that I enjoy.
Yeah, you can see,
I
feel,
call
and
it,
touch.
enjoyable assets.
I like that a lot. And it's interesting now. I think a lot of opportunities will arise in that situation when we go through economic downturns or economic roller coasters. You're going to see a lot of people get nervous.
Yep.
And in those times, you're going to see people fire sale off their Lamborghinis or their Rolls Royces or their watches, jewelry, etc., because they get nervous and they don't know what to do.
Yep.
And when the first thing they do, they sell their jewelry or their assets or their luxury assets at big discounts.
Right.
And so the word for that is dry powder. Dry powder is when you have capital ready for these moments when someone says, hey, I just got a divorce. I'm going to sell my house.
Yes.
Can you buy it? It's listed for $2 million. Will you buy it for 1.6? Yes, I will.
Exactly.
Hey, I'm going to sell my watch for 100K, but I'll actually sell it to you for 74,000 because I need the cash right now.
Exactly.
Yes, I'll buy that. You have to have dry powder in those situations. And that's, again, same thing applies at $500, 5,000, 500,000, etc. It's wherever you guys are that are listening, wherever you are in life, those situations arise in all types of forms. You'll see someone have the brand new Fear of God sneakers and they're willing to sell for 400 when it was worth 800 just because
they need some money.
they need some money. And you're going to see that a lot coming up in 2023 where people get nervous.
It's scary.
It's really scary. So I am super passionate about people investing because it gets me frustrated seeing very wealthy friends go broke or seeing friends that are starting to make some money have a 4-bedroom house when they live there by themselves.
Right.
Because they want to show that they have a 4-bedroom house.
Right.
Or they have 4 cars when they only have 1 butt.
I'm going to tell you what I think happens, and I talk about this to Grant a lot. I think that a lot of us don't know where to safely invest our money. Mm-hmm. So it's like people bring you, a lot of opportunities, but you're scared. So if I invest $50,000, $100,000, how do I know I'm going to get my money back? So I think that, I love Grant. I love that I get paid every month. And I see my building. I actually have an office in my building. I could touch my building, and I got my paperwork. I got my tax write-offs. But I think that what we have to do is create more safe places for people to invest. I have some Tesla stock and some Apple stock and some Delta stock, but I'm not really into stock like that.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But I think that that's the issue. People don't really know where to safely invest.
So we grew up. Actually, we just heard Tom Brady mention it. That his mom told him it's rude to talk about money. And literally the way we end every single episode, and you'll see it today, is I say the reason we have the Money Mondays is because it's rude to not talk about money.
Exactly.
Think about it. We go out there, we're 18 years old, and then our parents throw us out into the real world. We have to get an apartment. We have to get a car. We have to get a job. We don't know how to deal with rent.
Right.
And we don't know how to, should we lease the car or buy the car? What type of loan should we get? If we're getting an apartment and we're going to be roommates, what if you don't pay 1 month or 2 months, and then what do I do? How do I deal with that? Should we sign the contract? Do you sign the lease? Am I on the lease? Are you on the credit? Is it just my name on the credit?
Right.
What is co-signing?
Right.
We don't know any of that stuff because we never learned it in high school. And now I go get a job and you go get a job and they offer you 40 grand and they offered me 36. Well, how did that happen? Why did that happen?
Right.
And both of us should have got 48.
Right.
But we didn't know that because we never asked around on how much should we get a salary for this new job.
Exactly.
And so I think it's rude to not talk about money. I know it's rude to not talk about money. That's the whole concept of this. Why or how can we get people to be more comfortable talking about money within their households and offices?
I think that we need more examples. I just feel like the best way to change the world is to come out from obscurity. And I think that the unfortunate part is like a lot of us, we just repeat the cycle of what our parents did. So I think that we need more examples. And I think when you make money, you should feel like it's your obligation. Like the reason why I go so hard, like I could literally just like retire right now and like I paid off my house and I could just chill. But that's not what I want to do, because what about my daughter who needs me as an example? What about the community? What about the world who needs to see a little black girl who came from where you came from? So I think the first thing is we need more examples. We need more people to get rich. We need you to get some money.
Absolutely.
We need you to get out of obscurity. We need you to be great so that you will feel comfortable talking about money. I think the people that's afraid to talk about money is the people that don't have any. I tell people all the time, the first question that Grant asked me, the very first question that Grant Cardone asked me was, how much money do you have in the bank? And I replay that question almost every day in my mind because a lot of things that has happened to me has been since I connected with the Cardones and Elena and Pete, and that day I could have got offended. I could have like, that's not your business.
Right.
He even went and said, that watch you should have on that watch, And I said, why not? He said, because you should invest in real estate. I said, why can't I have on a watch and invest in real estate? And then the next day I wired him $5 million, right? So I just feel like
I can guarantee you that's gonna be a clip, by the way.
yeah. So I just think that it's sad. We don't want to talk about money because we don't have any. When you get money, it's like you're like a dog. Like, I want to help everybody. Like, you're like a dog in heat. You just want to help people. And that's how I feel right now. Like, I want to see more people with money because I got to live in this world. And if you're broke, you want to borrow money from me, or then you may want to rob me, or you may want to rob my dad or rob my kids. So I just feel like the more people we help come up, the less crimes we have.
I absolutely love that. That's completely true. So education is super critical in this space. And I think that more people that can actually talk about it and have good conversations and be the example like you are is what we need.
Yes, I do.
Now, we have to get people to be comfortable being the example. So people joining your mastermind, people going to your events, people listening to someone that they look up to, and then taking the information and actually then becoming the actual example and not hiding it. Some people feel like it's bad to flaunt their wins. What do you think about that when people are told that it's not good to flaunt when they win?
So I think you just got to change your perspective. I don't call it flaunting. I call it inspiring. As a matter of fact, I have in my mind, it's called LOL, live out loud. Like, how do I inspire you if I make money and then I hide it?
Right.
I became inspired because I went to a meeting and I saw a beautiful woman that looked like me. She was a black girl. She had coarse hair, a small waist, a big butt, and she had the jewelry on. And I'm looking at her, and I didn't hear half the things she was saying. I just was saying, her outfit looks nice. I want to dress like that one day. Her hair is straight. I want that kind of hair one day. Wow, her watch. Like, man, I want to watch like that one day. Wow, her ring. So everything that I am is because I went somewhere and saw somebody. I'm like, I want to look like that one day. Wow, I want a car like that. I bought my Cullinan, before tax season. I bought a nice Cullinan, and I remember I used to say I would never buy a car for that much money. And then I got in one, and I saw people, how they responded to it, and I'm like, I want one of those now, and then I went and bought it. So I feel like I would not be the woman I am today if everybody around me made money and hid it. Even my mom, when she was selling drugs, I didn't like what she was doing, so I took what I liked about her. I liked the freedom part of her life. I liked the hustling part of her life. I didn't like that she was broke one day and had money one day and was in and out of jail and was afraid for her life. But I liked when she had money. I remember days she would come home with a bunch of money. It's like she'll have a bunch of drugs one day, the drugs will disappear, and I'll see a bunch of money. And I'm like, wait a minute, so this made this. Okay, find things that people like, that they can get addicted to, sell it, and convert it to this. So I think that when you make money, you should let people know. But I think it's just how you do it. Like, if you're uncomfortable with your life and you're just a hater, you're always going to have haters. Like, I don't know if you know, Harvard did a study. For every 4% of the world, right, you got 100% in the world, 100%. 4% of the world is going to be leaders. The other 4% is going to be haters. The other 96% of the world, 92% of the world is going to be just blah. So for every visionary and leader, you have an equal hater. So I think when a person is mad that you talk about money, it's because they're just haters. So I think that when you make money, you're supposed to talk about it because you don't know who's watching, especially a little kid. I don't know if you had that friend. Like, my mom used to bring her friends over, and some of her friends, I'm like, she's broke. You could tell she's begging for some drugs or begging my mom for money. And then she had other friends that had come over, and they would smell good, and I was like, I want to be like that one day. So if it wasn't for the people that I caught, like, it's not what's taught, it's what's caught. If I didn't see it, like, I'm in this freaking mobile home, right, car, or whatever you want to call it, that's a podcast. I'm inspired. So now I'm going to go home and figure out how I could do something like this. So if you didn't do this, I wouldn't have been thinking like this.
Right.
I now want to do a big 5,000, people event and sell it out because Grant did it. So it's like when you show somebody, you now give people an example and a reason. So I think that when you make money, show it off. Just be nice about it. Don't be an asshole.
Yep. So at our social media agency, we paid 3,500 influencers last year. And
wow. That's
spent
amazing.
around $60 million. One of the main things that we tell the influencers, there's a big difference on how you post. if you and I post right now and you just bought the brand new Rolls Royce and you're just standing in front of it like, yeah, look at my Rolls Royce. Well, people are going to hate. There's going to be different types of comments. People are going to look at it like you're bragging.
Exactly.
Now, what if we did the same post and you said, 15 years ago, I was driving a 1986 Toyota Corolla, and the bumper was falling off. You know, like Ed Milet's speech, like the bumper was falling off my car. And now I worked all these years in network marketing and speaking and business, and I made really good investments. And finally, 15 years later, bam, I got a Rolls Royce, and one day you guys could too.
Exactly.
What are the comments going to look like on that post compared to you just like, hey, look at me, right? And so we teach people in the influencer space how you frame the content, the caption, and the photo is how your comments are going to be. So if you're always thinking you're going to have trolls or haters in your comments, it's how you're framing it. Because if you're inspiring them, they're not going to sit there and be trolls to you. If you're flaunting it, they will. Okay, last part about investing. The best investment, and I think you know I'm going to go with this, is investing into yourself. Why should people spend money on courses, masterminds, coaching, reading books, listening to podcasts? Like, why should they spend the money, time, and energy in themselves?
Okay, so I dropped out of school in the 9th grade. Like literally the summer of 9th grade, I was gone. So let's say I have an 8th grade education, which means I don't have the degrees and all of those things that society says that you must have to be successful. So I had to figure things out. If I was basing my income and my lifestyle off of what I learned traditionally, I wouldn't be who I am today. My very first book I read when I was 18. I read it from cover to cover, and it was called Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice by Napoleon Hill and Dennis Kimbrough. And when I read that book, it really, really, really changed my life. It made me realize that I could think and grow rich, not traditional education and grow rich. I could think and grow rich. And after reading that book, it like opened me up to like this whole world of like personal growth and development. So at first, I didn't have any money. And so I would listen to Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar and, of course, John C. Maxwell, Miles Monroe online. And then I found out about Tony Robbins. Somebody gifted me a ticket to Tony Robbins. I never forget, the ticket was like $700. And I was like, damn, they could have gave me that money. I'm broke.
Right.
Like, then I got there and Tony Robbins is jumping up and down. I'm like, this is stupid. Like, this is the dumbest thing. I'm like, white people just do the dumbest stuff. Like, oh my God. And I didn't have any money to leave. And I was like, let me just see if this works. And I went to the event depressed. I went to the event broke. And honestly, if it wasn't for my integrity and not having money, I would have left. My integrity says, Stormy, somebody put $700 into you because they believe in you. And then my bank account said you can't leave because there's no gas in the car. Anyway, you got to wait for your baby daddy to bring you $20.
Yep.
And I started jumping up and down at the event. And it's like, I'm literally in the event deciding to like participate. And in that moment, like the endorphins went up and I just changed. And it's like my life just started like flashing. And that was the first time I ever really understood, wait a minute, get in the right environments. I've invested, man, I was a Tony Robbins Platinum Partner. I believe like whatever your income is, your projection or your goal, you should invest 10% of that a year. That's what so if you want to make $1 million in a year, find a way to get $100,000 into your mind.
Yep.
Find a way. I don't care. Find a way. And I believe that when you pay attention. A lot of people want stuff for free. And when you don't pay for it, you don't listen.
Right.
But when you got some skin in the game, it's like, okay, I paid $10,000 to come to this event. Let me sit my butt down. So paying the money makes you have to pay attention. So I believe that everybody should figure out how much money they want to make and then find a way to invest that much. So, I mean, just last year alone, I did one mastermind. It cost me $150,000. Right. But I learned so much. I went home and I made my money back from that mastermind just from the relationships that I got in that room. Right. So you gotta invest in yourself. The best investment that you can make is in yourself. Because, I mean, I made my first $1 million at 29. I was broke, fat, and depressed by 33. If I didn't have it in me, I wouldn't be the woman I am today. So when you invest in yourself, it's inside of you. They can't take what is inside of you away. And so when you start to become and you grow, it's like a confidence and a clarity that comes over you. So yes, everybody should find ways to invest in themselves. There was a study done that the average American only invests $14 a year in personal development, and that's the newspapers and the Inquirer. and tabloids, which is
Right.
crazy. So when you look at your friends and what your friends are doing, if they're not where you want to be, then, or you're not where you want to be, you got to change your conditions, and your conditions is the conditions in your mind.
Okay. Last topic.
Okay.
Charity.
Yes.
So we talked about how to make money, how to invest money. Now let's talk about giving it away. How do you decide what charities that you're willing to support?
So I have my own charity, Girl Hold My Hand Foundation, and I grew up with a single mom. My mom had 4 kids from 4 different men, and so I know what it is to struggle as a woman, especially I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for not having money for Thanksgiving dinner, not having money for Christmas gifts, watching my mom struggle. And so my foundation, we help pay light bills, we help pay rent, we buy formula for kids if we need to. We pay for Christmas gifts and Thanksgiving, for holidays. I have an angel home in South Africa I need to go visit. We built a home for 9 boys. They're the only this the only house in 20-mile radius that has lights. Like literally the street is freaking pitch black, and this one house has lights. I think I paid $10 grand for the house. So I believe that when you make money, the more you give, the more you receive. It's not about just receiving, but it's also about giving. Some of my friends have charities, so I give to some of their charities, but my main thing is to build my own charity. So I give to my charity, my own charity.
How do we make people more charitable?
You know what? I think people don't understand the power in giving and not giving to receive from the same place. It's not like a seed. If you plant an apple seed in the grass right here, it's gonna grow right here. But if you sow a seed into someone, you may get the harvest from somewhere else. I think that when people think about seed time harvest, it's churchy. They only think it's church related. But I think the more success we have, the more money we make, the more we show that giving is cool and it's very rewarding. Like this year, we had a 18-wheeler full of toys. It was me, Flo Rida, Po' Boy Entertainment. We went into the community. We went into the underprivileged community.
Yep.
Like a project.
Yep.
And it was a line wrapped around a corner. And honestly, the feeling of watching the kids, they felt like they was at the store picking out their Christmas, their bikes and their toys. And my daughter actually has her niece, her cousin lives in the community, and for my daughter to tell me, hey mom, I went there last week, and it just made me feel so proud as your daughter, to see kids riding around in the bikes, on the bikes that you gave them. The feeling that I got from giving, it makes me want to do it more. Even when you give up your time, that's everything. When you give up your information, when you give up not just time or not just money, but everything could be a donation. Everything could be a contribution.
Yep.
And I believe that the Bible says to be fruitful and to multiply. So that means when you bear fruit, now your responsibility is to figure out how to continue to bear fruit. Like even today, talking to you today was a little weird because it's okay, it doesn't seem like he's trying to do anything with me to make any money. I'm a little confused. He's giving me all these people's phone numbers, no problem. It actually felt weird. I didn't say anything to Vanessa, but I'm like, what is the catch? But even sitting here with you now, I know that you know the principle of when you help somebody get what they want, you'll always have what you want. And so I'm grateful for you. And your example today is exactly what I want to be. I want to be so financially solid that I don't need you to do business with me. I just, hey, if it happens, it happens. If it happens, it's because we're serving a greater cause. But I'm looking forward to getting to the place in my life where I'm not always trying to figure out what is the transaction here. I want to be the seed or the soil. So giving is very rewarding because it makes you feel, I believe, fulfilled and proud, and you're living up to what God says we're supposed to do.
Can I be blunt with you?
Go ahead.
The reason that I'm so free with someone like yourself is that I know how much you help people.
Oh.
And so by default, the butterfly effect, if I get you more famous or I help you make more money and you do more businesses, the butterfly effect is thousands of people or hundreds of thousands of people are going to win more.
Yes.
And so selfishly, that's inside of me that I know that's going to happen. I don't need any credit for it. I'll never bring it up. But to me, I try to help people that I know are doing good things. And I say I collect people. And so I have these certain people that I'm like, if I can have a Stormy and she goes off to become this mega star or becomes mega rich, and she's out there, instead of giving out 1 semi-truck of toys, now you give out 4 semi-trucks of toys. By default, my little butterfly effect happened that you're doing 4 semi-trucks instead of 1.
Yes.
I never need the credit for it. I don't have to bring it up ever again. Whether you do 4 and then you do 40 or you do 400, it all stems from the little butterfly effect of like,
wow,
help Stormy go get more famous, go get richer, go get a bit more efficient. The butterfly effect to that is why I do it.
Wow. A lot of people don't think like that.
Okay, last thing. So charity, as you mentioned, is not just about money. I believe, and the reason I promote charity so often is it's because it's time, energy, and social media power can make people do charity. And I try to break it down really simply on social media by showcasing the different charity events. We have Trina's Kids Foundation. We don't ever publicly raise money. Trina's Kids Foundation is so people can see how we do it in the streets. We're in downtown Los Angeles with hundreds of families that show up, and we're literally giving out Thanksgiving food. We're giving out toys. We're giving out shoes and haircuts for report card day. Like, that doesn't take a bunch of money.
Right.
It takes time, energy, and social media power. And you don't need hundreds of thousands of followers to do it. It's going on Facebook, inviting 20 friends. When we started our toy drive 9 years ago, there were 6 of us on the floor wrapping toys. 6.
Wow.
On the second year, there was 16. On the third year, there was dozens. And then now we're doing the largest toy drive in history.
Wow.
That started with 6 kids on the floor. Literally,
Wow.
me and my wife and like wrapping up toys. Actually, 9 years ago. No, me and my ex-girlfriend were wrapping up toys. And the progression of us inviting our friends to just sit there and wrap toys and give them out.
So amazing.
And by showcasing it, here's the most important part. By showcasing charity, the same way showcasing your wins, it inspires people to do more charity. And so now I get tagged all the time in people's toy drives, their Thanksgiving food drives. They're giving out backpacks to the homeless like we do. They're making little Ziploc bags to the homeless like we do. And we started this thing during COVID called the tipping dinner. And it's where you get $100 each from your friends, and there's 9 of you or 12 of you or 15 of you, and you meet up at a restaurant, and you surprise the waitress or the waiter with $1,500.
Oh, I love that.
And then sometimes if we get the baller friends together, it's $1,000 each, and we surprise them $15,000 or $20,000. We make them split it with the wait staff.
I love that.
But more importantly, every single week, myself, Roger, all of us get tagged of people doing tipping dinners all over the planet, not just in the country, all over the planet. I can't. Not a week goes by when someone's not doing tipping dinner. It gets so big, they have no idea it's from me or my friends or
right.
us doing it. The butterfly effect.
Yes.
All over the place happened because people saw us doing tipping dinners and simple
Right.
videos of me and Stormy at a dinner, and we were all tipping $1,000, and boom, all of a sudden, you've got dozens of people throwing these tipping dinners all over the world.
I love that.
And so people being loud about winning, people being loud about charity, people being proud about the things that they do in their world will inspire people far greater than they'll ever know.
I love that.
Okay, last question.
That's amazing.
It is 2023. We're going into tumultuous times. Things are a bit rocky, hectic. People don't know what to do because the media is wild. What are some things that you would say to people as we go through 2023, 2024, and weird economic times? What should they do to prepare themselves in their worlds?
Wow. Well, first of all, I believe that, everything is pre-planned. When you look at what's been going on from COVID and the vaccine and the elections and the wars and all this corruption happening, I believe it was all part of a plan. And I think when you get to that place that you understand that, recession means a time of decreased economic activity. So what do? You increase your economic activity. So figure out what is your wheelhouse. Like, people have the imposter syndrome to the 10th power these days. Find your lane. What is it going to be? Is it going to be real estate? Is it going to be network marketing, direct sales? Are you going to be a coach, and have you created success from your coaching program? Like, find what you're going to be great at and get obsessed with it. Become very passionate about it. When people see you, like now, I realized that I took like a hiatus last year. A lot of people don't really know where I get my money from. Yes, I'm an investor. Yes, I have a skincare line, a CBD line. I have an office. I bought a yacht. But the money came from network marketing. And now that I see that people are hurting, one of the things I love about even what I do in network marketing is that it's very affordable. You can start a business with $100. So I'm back focused. Like, I'm getting big and loud. And it's interesting because I think a lot of people, when they make money or not making money, the ego gets in the way.
Yep.
If you make money, you have an ego. If you don't make money, you have an ego. It's the weirdest thing. So for me, I got to a place where I was making like so much money that I felt like certain things was like beneath me. Like, I'm not about to do no call with 20 people. I'm not about to do a hotel event with 50 people.
Right.
I'm not about to do a home party. But why not? I get to pull up nice. I get to smell nice. I get to dress nice. I get to share how I came from zero. I was just telling Vanessa, like, I'm blessed. Like, remember, like, 8 years ago, my best friend, Annetta Powell, and you know Annetta Powell, she loaned me $15,000 and was like, go get your hair done and pay me back later. And I knew that that was my last shot to do something. I know a lot of people don't have friends to loan them $15,000, but I took that $15,000. I got my hair done to build my confidence back up. I was fat at the time, so my confidence was very low. So no hair, no money, and fat. It's a horrible combination. And unhappy married. So I started working, number one, on my personal self-esteem. You know, when you don't have no self-esteem and no character and no confidence, like, you're losing. So number one, I think people should figure out, like, what is their focus. I believe health is wealth. Like, I am the girl that I'll be 43 years old in a couple days. I remember the times when I just didn't like myself. And the first thing I did was have that desire. Like, what is your desire? Like, you can get rich. Like, I made my most money. I had a $20 million year during COVID. So while everybody was panicking, I was, like, racking up. So I think don't be afraid of the high interest rates and all this recession talk. Like, find your lane and get in it and burn rubber, get rich, grow, get a coach, get a mentor, become cynical, become obsessed with whatever that vehicle is going to be, and be patient with yourself. Like, it's not going to be an overnight success, but if you pay attention to the compound effect and you just do it another day and another day and you just keep going, you know, you can look up. And like me, I went from borrowing that $15,000 and 90 days later I was at $250,000. 7 months later, I was skinny. I had some weave. I was divorced, and I was a millionaire.
Right.
And it was because I made up in my mind. I did not care how people looked at me. I let my ego go, and I went to work. So I think now is the time to put on the gloves or your skates or your whatever, your combat boots, and get busy. Increase your economic activity. Don't get scared and, oh, this is another one. Don't just want to save your money. Oh, I'm saving it, so I'm not going to invest in mentorship. I'm not going to get a coach. They want to sell a program. I'm not paying for that. I'm not paying. I don't have no money. You're saving it. When money goes out and nothing comes in, you're going to be broke. So find that vehicle. Find the thing that you like, that gets you excited. Like, I am passionate about health and wellness. I'm passionate about empowering women. I'm passionate about transformation. So I'm back focused on what I am excited about. And everybody has something that they're excited about. Find a way to get excited about it or whatever that is and get some money by selling it and sharing it, adding value and solving problems.
So you are listening to the Money Mondays with Stormy Wellington. Make sure to follow her on social media at Coach Stormy. We have one favor to ask here. We think it's rude to not talk about money, so we need you guys to share the podcast, share the clips, make sure your friends are listening so you can talk about money and we can help the world make more money.
Let's go. More money.
There are 5 genetic markers. Every single person in the world should do a genetic methylation test once in their life, because you do this test once, and then for the balance of your lifetime, you never guess on what your body is deficient in. Ever. Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am very excited for this episode of the Money Mondays. We have the speaker, out of all the speakers I've seen in my whole life, this is the only speaker in history that nobody during the 45 minutes looked at their cell phones once. That's hard to do in a room full of 100 rich, successful people, to not look at their phones, and they're just mesmerized, as I was, of what he's going to tell you guys about today on the Money Mondays. We have Dr. Gary Brecka.
Yo, good to see you, man. And by the way, I'm not a doctor. I am a human biologist. A lot of people mistake me for a doctor.
The human biologist, Gary Brecka, is in the building inside the RV, in our motorhome, right here, the MGM Grand Valet. He was just speaking up on stage at the 10X conference out here in Miami. Great event.
Yes.
So please, for our listeners, give us the story. Give us a couple minutes of the background of how you became who you are, and we're going to start talking about everything we can from health and money.
Oh, excellent. Well, I'm a human biologist by background, so that means that my undergraduate degrees were in biology and my postgraduate degrees were in human biology. And so I've always been fascinated with the human body, its form, its function, its performance. And after graduating from grad school with a human biology degree, I essentially went to work for the life insurance industry as a mortality expert, which meant that if we got 5 years of medical records on you and 5 years of demographic data, we could tell the insurance company how long you had to live to the month. And I get a lot of flack for that online because people are like, that's bullshit. If you could do that, you would have won a Nobel Prize. But the truth is, it's actually some of the most accurate science in the world. If you think about a life insurance company, when they take risk on your life, $10 million, $25 million, $50 million worth of risk, they're only betting on one variable. And they don't care where you are on an actuarial curve. They care where you are specifically, right? I mean, they want to know exactly how many more months does this person have left on Earth. It's some of the most accurate science in the world. There are 370 million people in this population database. I always say that if this database could see the light of day, it would permanently change the face of humanity.
Wow.
It would upend modern medicine in a way that would be just catastrophic, right? Because insurance companies have data that no other clinical study, no other university system, Stanford University or any other, published clinical trial has. And that is that they know the day, the date, the time, the location, and the cause of death for hundreds of millions of people that they've insured. And they can actually take that cause of death and triangulate it back to figure out what was it that made that person leave this earth in an untimely manner. And to make a long story short, I did that for 20 years, but it was very unfulfilling work. I mean, it was just... I feel like I lacked authenticity during the time that I was doing that, and I was also prohibited from having any contact with the patient or contact with the treating physician. So even if I saw life-threatening drug interactions, I couldn't intervene, right? I'm also not licensed to practice medicine, so I understand why they wouldn't want me to intervene. But so often I saw basic ailments in people that had I just been able to pick up the phone, I could have potentially added 7 more years to their life. So I left that industry 8 years ago when I started with my fiance a wellness company, and it has just absolutely exploded.
It's been fun to watch.
And now I feel like I live somebody else's life,
It's been amazing to watch what happen. So on the Money Mondays, we talk about 3 topics: how to make money, how to invest money, how to give it away to a charity. On this episode, it's going to be some different things because the most important investment is the human body.
No question.
And so some of the things are going to be a little bit twists and turns today because I don't want to just talk about money because money is irrelevant and useless if you're in the hospital or you're dead.
Right.
And so actually my wife, I've been wanting her to do a speech and she's been crafting it called Money is Useless If You're Dead.
Wow, that's great. It's very poignant.
It's a shocking thing, right?
Yeah.
And so we go to all these entrepreneurial conferences like 10X is going on this weekend here with thousands of people. But if they were in that moment of being in a hospital bed, they would give up hundreds of thousands, $1 million, pretty much everything to get healthy.
No question.
Or to bring their life
They
back.
say that a healthy man has 1,000 wishes, but a sick man only has one, right?
Fascinating.
So it's true.
So why do entrepreneurs go on full steam ahead, burn out, and end up getting sick or dying?
Well, because they don't realize that the time that they could give to themselves, they actually get back by increasing their focus. I say all the time that we can never manage time, and we never will be able to manage time, right? It passes at the same minute, second, hour every day. But we can manage our focus. And so there's a really interesting study. I want to say it was out of Stanford. If not, I'll find the link and I'll put it in this podcast because I wasn't expecting to quote it. But essentially what they did was they took the same battery of people and they had them perform tasks over a regular workday period. And they took a placebo group and they had them not exercise and they gave them an extra 45 minutes to complete several hours of tasks. And they took the non-placebo group and they actually had them exercise in the morning and use that 45 minutes for exercise and have 45 minutes less to complete the tasks. And they found that after exercise for the following 7 hours, they got almost 11 minutes more efficiency back in every hour. And so it helped them manage their focus because, I always say that the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. And if you look at every elevated emotional state that a human being can have, these elevated emotional states all require the presence of oxygen. So things like ignoring your fitness. We know now that the sitting is the new smoking, right? I mean, sedentary lifestyle is the leading cause of all-cause mortality. So a lot of entrepreneurs become highly focused on their goal, and they put everything else into the back seat. It's actually called caregiver syndrome, where they give everything to another person or another job or task or goal or something that they're trying to accomplish, and they put themselves in the back seat. So they wake up and say, look, I could go to the gym for 45 minutes, or I could do some breath work, or jump in a cold plunge, or take the first 90 minutes of the day to exercise. But I'd rather take that 90 minutes and commit it to, more calls, more posts, more Instagram, more marketing, more research on my own business, or multitasking so that I don't have to hire another employee. And they just get caught up in that aggressive pursuit of their goal, and they don't realize that aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort, right? And so once you realize that, there's a reason why, they say when a flight's going down that, put your oxygen mask on before you assist your own child, is because you're no good to your family, you're no good to your own child without, you being conscious, being awake. And it's so true. You're no good to your business. You're no good to yourself. You're no good to your family. And the truth is that most of us we have an income statement, a P&L, and a balance sheet for our business. We don't have the foggiest idea what's going on in our blood or what's going on in our genes. And the majority of people listening to this podcast right now, Dan, they are walking around at about 55 or 60% of their true state of normal. Wow. And I mean, even if they don't have aches and pains and think that they don't have brain fog or poor sleep or poor waking energy, I promise you most people are walking around between 55 and 60% of their true state of normal. And the reason for that is they do not know what their body is deficient in. And astounding things happen to human beings when you go into the body and you look for these deficiencies. Two things that we found in the mortality space that were what we call modifiable risk factors, meaning had people been aware that they had this deficiency, they could have added, on average, 7 years to their health span. Oh my gosh. 7 years to their lifespan. I mean, I always ask people, wouldn't you like to know what your body's deficient in that's keeping you from having absolutely clean, clear cognitive function? The waking energy of a tiger, deep delta wave of sleep, a strong response to exercise, no weight gain, no water retention, healthy libido. All of these things that we accept as a consequence of aging are not a consequence of aging at all. They are a consequence of simple missing raw material in the human body. You see, there is not a single compound known to mankind, not one, that enters the human body that is used in the format that we put it in. Everything that enters our bodies is converted through a process called methylation. It is converted into the usable form. I always use the analogy that we pull crude oil out of the ground, but you can't put crude oil into your gas tank, right? Because the car doesn't understand that fuel source. Crude oil has to be refined into gasoline, and now the car can operate. If you couldn't convert crude oil into gasoline, that vehicle would never run. The same thing is true in human beings. That conversion process is called methylation, and it's different amongst each of us. I mean, the biggest fallacy in all of modern medicine is that what goes into your body and goes into my body and goes into this cameraman that's off camera right now and his body is all treated exactly the same thing. Nothing could be further from the truth. And so there are several genes, but 5 major genes that regulate this process called methylation. They determine what you put into your body, whether or not you can convert it into the usable form or not. And if you can't make this conversion, you have a deficiency. And it is this deficiency that leads to some of the most common ailments that we suffer from and accept as a consequence of adulthood or aging. And these are things like ADD, ADHD, OCD, anxiety, depression. Rarely do things like anxiety and depression originate in our outside environment. They actually usually originate from within us, right? In fact, if you just isolate those two, if you find somebody who has suffered from anxiety or suffered from depression, and you ask them a few simple questions, you will find out very quickly that it is coming from their physiology and not their outside environment. A lot of patients I talk to that have anxiety, the first question I ask them is, have you had it on and off throughout your entire lifetime? And almost always the answer is yes. Okay, there's your first sign that this was a genetic deficiency leading to this condition. And the second question is, do you have a hard time pointing to the specific trigger that causes it? And they'll say, yeah, sometimes, I know some of the triggers, but, sometimes I can just be overwhelmed with anxiety when I'm driving home from work on an otherwise innocuous day, or I'm sitting around having dinner with my family. It seems to sometimes come and go without a trigger. This is another sign that this is not related to your outside environment. And if you ask them if they've ever tried anti-anxiety medications, if they've worked, they'll generally say no, they didn't work. They made me feel like a zombie. Well, right there, you know that you actually don't have anxiety. You have a missing raw material that is causing excess catecholamines to build up in the brain, fight or flight neurotransmitters. And these are triggering anxiety without the presence of a fear, right? I mean, if we look at the human brain, as sophisticated as we'd like to think it is, it's really not. It's very primal. In fact, the brain's really nasty. It's kind of like the Kim Jong-un of dictators. It sits up there, takes everything for itself. Right? If it wants calcium, it'll leach it from the bone. If it wants amino acids, it'll strip it from lean muscle. But the brain does not know the difference between perception and reality. And once we really understand this, we truly understand this, we understand that our brain can experience fear without the presence of a fear, right? Like if you drove home tonight and you got out of your car and, somebody was standing in front of you with a knife, you would have a massive fight or flight response, right? Pupils would dilate, heart rate would increase, extremities would flood with blood, your hearing would get very acute. That's because you have a presence of a fear. But you could be, we're right outside the MGM Grand here. You could be laying on the 30th floor of the MGM Grand in bed and start thinking about getting eaten by a shark, right?
Yeah.
And the chances of a shark making it from the Pacific Ocean, to Las Vegas, and then up that elevator, zero. But you can have the exact same response,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So one is very real, one is entirely perceived. So once you understand that the brain can do that, you can see how it can trigger a mild fight or flight response without the presence of a fear, because we're not balancing neurotransmitters. The same reason why our mind gets very clouded, and we call it attention deficit disorder. I mean, so many entrepreneurs that are listening to this podcast right now could look at what's called their genetic methylation, take a Q-tip, put it in their cheek, send that Q-tip to a lab, and when that lab came back and said, here are the genes that you have that are not functioning properly, MTHFR, AHCY, these different genes, and here's the specific supplement you need to help support that gene's function, you would be shocked how much more acute your memory could be, how much faster your short-term recall, how much less anxiousness, anxiety, how much less ADD and ADHD. Because, when we really start to break apart some of the things that so many entrepreneurs suffer from, like attention deficit disorder, for example, attention deficit disorder is not really an attention deficit at all. It's actually an attention overload disorder, right? It's too many windows open at the same time. So people that have ADD or ADHD, they don't lack the ability to pay attention. They lack the ability to pay attention to so many things. And this is because we don't just create thought in the human mind, we also dismantle thought. So if you create thought at a faster rate than you break it down, the mind becomes clouded, right? You have too many windows open. And what happens is we have a tendency to give equal weight to all of these different thoughts. And we call this attention deficit disorder, but it's really an overload of windows opened. And we give equal weight to all of these different thoughts. So we start to develop this personality where we say, oh, I work really well under pressure. In fact, most entrepreneurs say that to me all the time. I go, well, I'm sorry to hear that, because what that means physiologically is you lack the ability to set priorities internally. And so you use external pressure to set your priorities. So what if you could actually put certain raw materials, L-methionine, magnesium, zinc, certain methylated forms of B vitamins, very simple raw materials and nutrients, what we call methylated vitamins, into your bloodstream, and have your mind begin to quiet. Your priorities begin to be set very easy. Your short-term recall begin to improve. Brain fog eviscerate. The depth of your sleep improve. And this is like my mission in life, is to teach people that optimal health is not that far out of our grasp. I mean, it's not found in, we have a superhuman protocol. It's $150,000. You don't need $150,000 in equipment to be a superhuman. You can be a superhuman by getting back to the basics, right? Nutrition, water, sleep, contacting the earth, things like that. I feel like I just ate your face for like 30 minutes, so I'm gonna once the train leaves the station with me, I get like so excited. I'll talk about everything.
So I have a question. most entrepreneurs you consider semi-smart or smart, right? And it seems like this would be common sense, right? We should be taking care of our body, our fitness, our health, our food, our sleep, etc. Because we know now, at least the last 5-10 years, we've learned about sleep, and we've learned that cigarettes are bad. Gyms are finally all over the country. Healthier food options are all over the country where they weren't before.
Right.
Why does it take something scary or tragic for us to realize, wow, now that I found out I have diabetes, or now that I found out that I have cancer, or now that I found out that my friend just passed away at 47 and had a heart attack like that, why does it take something like that so tragic to shock us to then be like, you know what, I will eat less XYZ, or I will start taking my supplements, or I will start getting regular checkups?
Well, that's because we don't notice the absence of the bad as much as we notice its presence. And here's what I mean. Like right now, you might not notice that your left knee is not hurting because it doesn't hurt, right? So we have a tendency to not pay attention when there is not something bad, right? Like you may not notice that you don't have a headache because you don't have a headache. So when the bad begins to creep into our lives, that's when we start to notice it and we pay attention to it. We don't pay attention to the things that we're not aware of. And so very often our physiology does not present itself until it decides to make itself a priority. Type 2 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune disease, issues with bowel. But the truth is that, I always think that a great mechanic or a good mechanic is like somebody that fixes your car. But a great mechanic is one that keeps your car from breaking down. And so a really progressive entrepreneurial mindset would be like, I want to make sure that this car is not only going to not break down, but I want to make sure that it runs like a Ferrari all the time. And that starts with knowing what your body is deficient in. Most people are just supplementing just for the sake of supplementing, right? They go, oh, these, vitamins were by XYZ celebrity or XYZ athletes and endorses these, and they're made in an FDA-inspected facility, and it's got all of these amazing ingredients in it. But the question is not what's the caliber of the vitamin or the supplement or the nutrient. The question is, does your body need it? And the only place you can get that answer is by testing yourself. You can look at your blood work. 64 biomarkers in your blood. There are 5 genetic markers. Every single person in the world should do a genetic methylation test once in their life, because you do this test once, and then for the balance of your lifetime, you never guess on what your body is deficient in, ever, right? Because what goes into your body and goes into my body is very different. You may need a different form of folate. You may need a different form of B12 that your body absorbs. There's 4 different forms of B12. One of them we make in a laboratory. 3 of them occur naturally in nature. We use a lot of chemicals that we've been brainwashed to believe are actually vitamins. Things like folic acid. Folic acid is an entirely man-made chemical. It doesn't occur anywhere naturally on the surface of the earth. You can't find it anywhere naturally in nature. And yet we spray folic acid on all of our grains, all of our cereals, all white pasta, all white bread. 44% of the population has a gene mutation that does not allow them to process folic acid. And they're eating folic acid-laden foods that are fortified or enriched, and they're not realizing what damage this is causing to them. It's causing a brain fog. It's collapsing their mood. It's reducing their emotional state. It's even slowing down their gut. And then people start to think that they have allergies, right? They go, gosh, Gary, I'm allergic to, wheat, corn, soy, blueberries, dairy, and bananas. I go, okay, well, let's slow down. If you really have all those allergies, let me ask you a question. Let's just pick corn. You said you're allergic to corn. I mean, is there ever a time you can eat corn and not have a reaction? They go, yeah, once in a while I can eat corn and not have a reaction. Okay, well, then you're not allergic to corn, right? I mean, allergies are not transient. They're consistent, right? So what makes us transiently allergic or reactive to different foods? It has nothing to do with what we're eating. It has to do with the intestinal motility. You see, there's a gene in every human being that codes for the motility of the intestine. If that gene is broken and you don't supplement for its deficiency, you will spend a lifetime trying to figure out why you have gas or bloating or diarrhea or constipation or irritability or cramping. And you always are trying to link it to what you last ate, but you can't seem to link it consistently to one thing. It seems to always kind of shift. And yet, so just think if you have this gut issue, like how much that is detracting from your ability to perform. And then add a mild amount of brain fog. You get a great idea in the bedroom. You walk to the kitchen. You wonder what the hell you're doing in the kitchen, right? And then you add a little bit of sleep disruption, right? A little bit of lack of deep delta sleep, right? So now you got, tau proteins and amyloids beginning to accumulate in the brain. And then you add just a little bit of water retention and a little bit of weight gain. You just slightly reduce your response to exercise. You marginally decrease your libido. Now, all of a sudden, it seems like the whole world's going to hell in a handbasket, and you don't have one singular issue. You have this spoke of this wheel. It seems like the whole world's coming apart, but it's all comes back to one hub. It comes back to this issue called methylation. What does my body need to perform its best? I mean, and that is my goal in life, my mission in life. I speak all over the world. I take every podcast that I can, because I believe that this information is so valuable to humanity and to mankind that people, if they just knew what raw material their body was missing and put it back, they would thrive in ways they never thought possible.
So from a business perspective, what is 10X Health? I see it on your shirt here.
10X, it's right there. So 10X Health, 10X is Grant Cardone's brand. Grant Cardone became a client of mine several years ago, about 4 years ago. In fact, if you go back on Grant's Instagram about 4.5 years, you'll see that he looked 15 years older then than he does now, right? I mean, he does not look, act, or perform like a 65-year-old man. You saw him this weekend. I mean, he's bouncing around that stage like a freaking jackrabbit. He's all on Instagram. I mean, if anything, he's got this searing energy of an entire staff full of men half his age. And so, I was introduced to Grant by a really young, incredible entrepreneur named Alex Morton several years ago, and Alex went to Grant and said, listen, I'm going to make an investment in your real estate fund on the condition that you go see this human biologist in Naples named Gary Brecka. And when I first, met Grant, when I first introduced to him, I mean, he kind of wanted nothing to do with me. He got this test done, this cheek swab test done, where you swab your cheek and you send it to a lab and it sends the results back. And he got on the phone with me, and I could tell that Alex had kind of forced him into it. And he said, hey, man, this is Grant Cardone. And he said, look, man, I don't even know who you are. I don't know what you do. But before you even start, I should just tell you that I got doctors hanging on trees and I got personal trainers coming out of my ass. I was like, okay. And he goes, listen, I got about 8 minutes, man. Why don't you just give me your spiel? I was like, whoa, that was harsh. But if you know Grant Cardone, that's exactly what he said. Yeah. And I said, well, Mr. Cardone, why don't we start by you telling me how you feel? And he said, I feel great, man. I'm running around the world and building my empire. I feel great. I said, well, do you mind if I tell you what I see in this test? And he said, no, go ahead. So I said, well, I see a man that goes to bed exhausted, but his mind keeps him up until the wee hours of the morning, so that by the time you wake up in the morning, you're more exhausted than when you went to bed. And I said, I can see that you wake up sore and achy in the morning like you had a workout the night before when you haven't, and I bet it really bothers you that the soles of your feet and ankles really hurt when you get out of bed in the morning to walk to the bathroom and take your first piss. And I said, look, man, I don't know anything about your love life, but libido left the building about 9 months ago. And if I was to guess, the thing that bothers you most right now is brain fog. And he goes, what the hell do you mean, dementia? And I said, no, brain fog. You like I said, you get a good idea in the bedroom, and by the time you get to the kitchen, you wonder what the hell you're doing in the kitchen. And he couldn't believe it. He said, you can really tell all of that from that test? And I said, we sure can. And then we had a conversation about fixing it. It's kind of funny because he said, I'll do lotions, potions, creams, jellies, or injections. I'll do whatever you tell me. And I was like, lotions, potions, creams, jellies, or injections? I was like, okay. I don't have any of those things except maybe the injection. Yeah. And I shipped him a supplement package, and a few weeks later he called me back and he said he was sleeping so soundly, he had the energy of 10 men, the libido was back, all the aches and pains and joint inflammation was gone from his body. He said he hadn't thought that clearly in decades. He didn't remember having a good night's sleep in the previous 10 years. And he had a whole new zeal for life. And 12 months later he acquired us. Acquired my company, which was called Streamline Medical Group, that I started with my fiance. and it became 10X Health. And now, you know, with some capital infusion from him and you know, his entire organization behind us, we're rolling out 1,000 locations across the United States. We just opened in London, Stadt, Switzerland. We're opening shortly in Dubai. You know, we grew from 8 to 80 employees, from you know, $3.5 million in revenue. In
3 years?
14 months, we went. You know, revenue wise, employee wise, we grew from 8 to 80. Revenue wise, we grew from $3.5 million to about $27 million. We're on track to do $72 million this year.
Whoa!
But you know, it's not even the money. The money represents the total amount of lives that we're impacting, because it represents how many people have taken a test, found a deficiency, are supplementing for that deficiency. And you know, you were at the event this weekend. I mean, I called people that had a life-changing experience up onto the stage. The freaking stage almost collapsed. Right. I got a lot of trouble for that, by the way. I shouldn't have done that, but in retrospect, it was a really poor idea. But I was like, if you've had a life-changing experience, you know, come on up here. And I realized 5,000 people out there, and boom, they stormed the stage. Because it really is simple if you ask the body the right questions to find out what is missing that is keeping me from being my optimal best. What if I had marginally more energy, marginally more, better sleep, marginally less weight gain or water retention, marginally better short-term recall? When you start stacking all of these things onto a hard-charging entrepreneur, you start honing in their focus, and you start pulling anchors up off the ground that are dragging behind them, right? Mood numbness, exhaustion, fatigue. You start a hormone imbalance, and you start dragging these anchors, anxiety, depression, these mood apathy. You start pulling these things up off the ground, man. The ship really starts picking up speed.
So what is these locations? What is like concept of the business? What is the size of it? What does someone do there? Like, why would someone want to franchise it? Just give us the main idea of the business itself.
Yeah, so the business itself is these are small franchises that we'd have in local markets, all over the country, because we're really trying to get the price point and the access down to the masses. Yep. So we do a 64 biomarker test in the blood. We do 5 genetic markers and what's called their alleles, their submarkers. If we get those 2 pieces of information on you, we can literally turn you into a superhuman. And then we do supplements and treatments based on those deficiencies, solely based on those deficiencies. And then we also do IV nutritional therapies, very common IV nutritional therapies. And then we do some very advanced IV nutritional therapies, things like ozone, and NAD and other intravenous treatments. But we also have incorporated something called the superhuman protocol, because if you realize that all we really get out of Mother Nature are 3 things. We get magnetism from the earth, we get oxygen from the air, we get light from the sun. If you only knew how important those 3 things are, magnetism, oxygen, and light, to optimal health. I mean, the truth is, most people probably listening to this podcast, if they thought about the last time they really had bare feet touching bare soil, I mean dirt, grass, sand, that's the last time they discharged into the earth. Wow. Right? That's the last time they actually changed the polarity in their body, the alkalinity in their body. Earthing and grounding is a very real thing. The truth is just most of us don't do it anymore. So when we lose touch with the magnetism of the earth, we actually become more acidic. The biggest fallacy in all of modern marketing is that you can become alkaline by drinking alkaline water. And that's a complete fallacy, right? I mean, in molecular biology, something can't donate its properties and also maintain them. So, alkaline water won't make you alkaline. Changing the charge in the body will, right? pH stands for potential hydrogen. So if I want to change the pH, I need to change the charge in the body. So you can do that by walking on the surface of the earth, or you can do that by using what's called a PEMF mat. And so we have these PEMF mats in our locations. And then we also do something called EWOT, exercise with oxygen therapy. It's where you take 95% oxygen, you breathe it, you put an oxygen mask on, breathe it for 10 minutes while you do mild exercise, perfuse the blood and the tissues with oxygen, and then you move into a red light therapy bed, photobiomodulation. And this helps with inflammation, circulation. It helps regenerate collagen, elastin, fibrin in your skin. It also helps to force oxygen into a very special organelle in your body called the mitochondria. It forces oxygen in here and increases the voltage, the power of a human being. And so we use things like magnetism, oxygen, and light, very simple, traditional modalities that we borrow from Mother Nature. We bring them from outside in. We do biomarker testing in the blood, biomarker testing in the genes, and we turn people into superhumans.
So the superhuman protocol that you said is 150 grand, is that meant for people's homes, or that's what's inside of 10X Health?
That's inside of 10X Health. I mean, look, we do have patients that spend 150 grand on it, but by no means do I expect people to listen to a podcast or come to a stage talk or follow me on Instagram and spend 150 grand on those kinds of equipment, which is why I always talk about how could you get the superhuman protocol for free?
Right.
Okay, well, first thing you could do is you could start taking off your shoes and walking on the surface of the earth, like contacting the earth, sand, dirt, grass, discharging into the earth. You could start waking with the sun and getting first light and doing breath work at first light. So you're getting the benefits of that first 45 minutes of light during the day where you have very, very healthy blue wavelengths of light, not the blue wavelengths like you get from your phone. You have a positive impact on cortisol and a positive impact on your melatonin cycle. You also get no UVA and UVB, so you're actually accessing really healthy sunlight. Best to do it even with your shirt off, and doing breath work. So you can get almost what those modalities would provide without spending a penny out of your pocket. Now, look, if you have the wherewithal and you have a biohacking room in your house, then there's no question you should have a pulse electromagnetic field mat that will make all 32 trillion cells in your body alkaline in 16 minutes. You should use EWOT, exercise with oxygen therapy, the only 2-time Nobel laureate prize winner in medicine, Dr. Otto Warburg, won both of his prizes for his work in exercise with oxygen therapy. We know that presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. And if you can afford it, you can use a photobiomodulation bed, a red light therapy bed. This is a 360-degree bed that bathes the body in different wavelengths of light that have incredible therapeutic effects. They repair, they regenerate, they reduce inflammation. But by no means do you need to spend that kind of money. You can get it by free just by getting back in touch with Mother Nature.
I love this. So our podcasts are only 40 minutes because I want people. People to do it while they're at the gym, or the normal commute is 45 minutes.
Okay.
And the normal gym workout is 45 minutes. And so
Cool.
I like making 40-minute episodes. So I'm going to come over and probably do episode with you every 3 months.
That'd be great.
There's always things to talk about with you. So investing is part of what we talk about, but here I want to talk about investing in your health.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that people could be thinking about, whether it's the supplements, the gym? What are the things that the people should be thinking about just for personal, without spending a ton of money? What are the things that they could do to invest into their personal health?
So, first I'll tell you what you do if you have $600. If you have $600, there's a one-time genetic test called a DNA methylation test. It's a fancy way of saying what genes in my body are working, what genes in my body are broken. It's a cheek swab. We charge $600 for it. You do this test once in your lifetime. You put a Q-tip in your mouth, you send it into a lab, tells you exactly what genetic breaks you have and what supplements are likely to fix those genetic breaks, not actually fix the gene, but supplement for its function. And that is a test I think every single person in the world should do once in their lifetime. You spend the money one time, and for the balance of your life, you will never guess again on what you need to do to supplement for deficiency. There is nothing that will have a greater physiologic impact for less money than that one test. In the absence of that, what are some things you could do for free? Well, you could certainly learn to do breath work. This is the most overlooked thing in all of modern wellness and functional medicine, is that human beings have actually lost the capacity, the understanding of how important it is to breathe. We know that sedentary lifestyle is the leading cause of all-cause mortality, but the reason for that is sedentary lifestyle increases your state of hypoxia, oxygen deprivation. And remember, every human being leaves this earth the same way. You, me, and everybody listening to this podcast dies exactly the same way. We die of something called hypoxia, lack of oxygen to the brain. Now, it may be a bus, a gunshot wound, a heart attack, a stroke, it may be old age, but eventually, when you cannot sustain enough oxygen to the brain, that is the definition of death, right? So, Wim Hof is my favorite. I'm actually in the process of becoming Wim Hof certified because I'm such a big believer. I'm going to the Pyrenees Mountains with him very soon to go through the final part of training. But so learning how to do breath work, Wim Hof's my favorite. There's a breath work technique that I do every single morning for 8 minutes, and I will literally miss a flight not to miss breath work.
Wow.
I can't think of a single day in the last 28, 29 months where I've missed a single day of breath work. And the other thing is when you have an aggressive travel schedule, the one thing that breath work does for you is it tells your body that we have this one time of day where we do exactly this. The body craves routine. So when you're changing time zones and hotels and eating at different restaurants and you're either speaking on different stages or you're traveling for your job, if you woke up at the same time every day and did breath work to reset your circadian clock, nothing will be more impactful on your state of optimal health and your resilience when you change time zones than that. So learning how to do breath work, contacting the earth, cold showers and cold plunges. A lot of people can't afford a cold plunge. They're like, $5,000, $7,000, $15,000. So then just learn to take a cold shower. Just get in, lather up, finish your normal warm shower, crank it as cold as it'll get, step out of the water stream, wait for it to run for about 30 seconds, and then step into it and just deal with it. Aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort. We have got to learn to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Stand in that water stream for 60 seconds, eventually work your way up to 3 minutes.
Why?
Because, water is 29 times more thermogenic than air, meaning it removes heat from the body at 29 times the rate of air. And so when you think, first of all, and this is the way that I get all the women to do cold plunging that refuse to do it in the beginning, think of what the definition of a calorie is. Right, a calorie is it's actually a measure of heat. It's the amount of energy that it takes to raise 1 cubic centimeter of water 1 degree centigrade. So if a calorie is the measure of heat, then when heat is leaving your body, what do you think is leaving your body? Calories. Right. So there is nothing, and I mean nothing, no level of intense exercise, hits cardio, weight training, steady state cardio, there is no form of exercise known to mankind that comes anywhere close to the thermogenic effect, fat burning effect of exposing yourself to cold water. Period. Full stop. End of story. Nothing even close. So if you want to strip fat off your body, start getting comfortable getting in cold water or cold showers.
We're definitely making that a clip.
Yeah.
That was so good.
Yeah, and then you also get the release of something called a heat shock or a cold shock protein, which are specialized proteins reserved in your liver trying to save your life. They scour the body of free radical oxidation. They quadruple the rate of protein synthesis, which is muscle repair. You get a peripheral vasoconstriction, which takes all the oxygen from your muscles in your periphery, forces it into the core, forces it up to the brain, which is actually what happens in deep sleep. So it mimics deep sleep. So just all of the benefits of cold are not just the reduction of inflammation, these cold shock proteins, it's the peripheral vasoconstriction, it's the increase in metabolic rate, the activation of brown fat. There's just so many positive things that come from it, and people don't access it because it's marginally uncomfortable, right?
Can you clear up a very important rumor?
Yeah.
Some people like to go do the cold plunges for like 8-9 minutes, and they go for 32 degrees instead of like you were explaining to me last week why, how much you actually need to do, and the rest is irrelevant.
Yes, I mean there is no evidence, none that I've seen, that colder is better, right? A cold plunge starts at 58 degrees. At about 48, 50 degrees, that's the ideal sweet spot in my opinion. 3 minutes minimum, 6 minutes maximum. The longer you stay in a cold plunge, you don't get any additional vasoconstriction. The longer you stay in a cold plunge, you don't get any additional cold shock protein release. Now, you may have slightly more brown fat activation, marginally so, but really it's like the cup runneth over. You do 3 minutes minimum. So ideally a cold plunge would be 50 degrees, 48 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. You get in there for 3 minutes minimum, 6 minutes maximum, and you do it every single day. And that you will stay safe. You won't put your body at risk. I've seen people all over Instagram getting in 37 degree water.
Yeah.
I've seen people going underwater with snorkels, straws, snorkels, all kinds of things, and putting their head underwater for 12 minutes and breathing through a snorkel. Don't forget, your brain is this far inside of your skull, right? It's a quarter of an inch inside the surface of your skull. It is not good to freeze your brain. It is not good to bake it. People getting in 220 degree saunas, for 60 minutes at a time and sweating, they're like, man, I feel dizzy. Sometimes I feel nauseous. I get blurred vision. Yeah, because you've cooked your brain, right? I mean, turn your oven to 200 degrees and just take a raw egg and set it in on a cookie sheet and watch what happens to it. That's the same temperature that you're getting in some of these saunas for prolonged periods of time. Would you curl up in your oven 220 degrees. No.
No, Kane wants to do that though.
He does. He wants to curl up in the oven. Okay, so
He always
knock
wants
your
a hotter-
socks off.
we got a fancy sauna. And he's like, no, I want to go hotter. What is a good temperature for sauna, and how long?
I mean,
Ballpark.
180 degrees, Fahrenheit for a dry sauna, much less 155, 170 degrees for an infrared sauna. Because remember, there's two types of sweating, right? We have passive sweating and active sweating. Passive sweating is to reduce body temperature. Active sweating is to eliminate waste. This is why you sweat when you're cold, like the cold sweats, like when you're sick. This is your liver using the skin as a secondary route of waste elimination. And so when you want to use the skin as a secondary route of waste elimination, we use infrared, right? Heats you from the inside out. If you just want to sweat for the sake of sweating, lose a little bit of sodium, some electrolytes, you just passively sweat. So my preference is infrared saunas because the temperature is actually lower, and you're eliminating waste. So and 20 minutes is to 30 minutes is the ideal sweet spot. Hours and hours in a sauna is not good for you. Again, you're cooking your brain, right? We shouldn't heat it to that extent. We shouldn't freeze it to that extent. And I think there's a lot of, like rite of passage, like, well, you're getting 40-degree water, I'm getting 37-degree water, I'm getting 35-degree water,
Yeah.
I'm getting 32.1, right? Like, wait till it's just frozen. And I don't know that there's any other major
Okay.
effect.
So, also on the Money Mondays, we talk about how to make money, how to invest money, and since it's the twist of everything, because you're so health related, investing into our bodies, the last thing we talk about is how to give it away to charity.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you're doing is one of the most important things in our society, because if you can help people live longer, live better, live more efficiency, well, that helps. The butterfly effect to me is people are more efficient, they create more commerce, they have more employees, they have more time with their family, etc. I think the butterfly effect of what you're doing is going to span for millennia. So,
Thank you.
how do people spread the word about the charity version of this is making other people healthier longer?
Yeah. Well, in my case, we work a lot with drug and alcohol and addiction treatment facilities, and also sex trafficking victims, Tim Tebow's foundation, and some of these other foundations that actually work with victims that have been sex trafficked. Because one of the rare discussions in all of addiction treatment and addiction medicine is we never really discuss the dopamine deficiency, right? Dopamine is the main driver of behavior. And we had a saying in the mortality space that the absence of dopamine was the presence of addiction, meaning that if I were able to magically go into your body and begin to deplete dopamine, it would drive you to dopamine seeking behaviors, right? And most people that develop an addiction didn't wake up one day and say, hey, I want to go get really banged up, right? They woke up one day and said, I want to feel normal. And it was the search for normalcy that caused them to develop an addiction. Maybe it was the drugs or the alcohol or the promiscuous behavior or the thrill seeking that made them actually feel normal. And they started to engage in this activity, and then all of a sudden they developed an addiction. And now they're running from a low. They're not running towards a high. And most, like I say, people that were addicted just said, I want to be normal. This is why addiction has a tendency to shift, right? You cure the physical addiction. Okay, so an alcoholic becomes a drug addict becomes a sexaholic becomes a workoutaholic, or a workaholic. It's that if you've ever known a true addict, their addiction has had a tendency to shift, never really go away. And the reason for this is we never address the dopamine deficiency. That's why I always say, you show me a child that can play video games 12 or 14 hours a day, I'll show you a future addict. A kid is not playing the video game because he likes the video game. He's playing the video game because it makes him feel normal.
Wow.
All right. And if you try to take that controller away from that kid, DEFCON 9.
Yes.
Right? So why does he go DEFCON 9? Because his mood collapses. Okay, so that's a kid that needs to be cheek swabbed and start on supplements right away so that he doesn't actually have this deficiency. So I really try to donate a lot of my time and a lot of 10X Health's time to addiction treatment and sex trafficking, because a vast majority of these young women actually go back into this industry. There's Stockholm syndrome where you bind with your captor, but there's another syndrome where you actually end up going back into an industry that actually abused you. And a lot of this has to do with this dopamine cycle.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I could do this for 4 hours. I try to keep the
Awesome.
podcast to 40 minutes because I want it to be easy for you guys to listen to it while you're at the gym, working out, etc. This is Gary Brecka. You're going to see him on multiple episodes. I'm going to try to have him co-host with me sometime.
Yeah, would love it.
I'm going to come out there to Miami. So please do me one quick favor. We need to spread the word about money, Money Mondays, and health. Because I believe it's rude to not talk about money. In today's special episode, I think it's extremely important to talk about health and wellness. So, what I need you to do is share this content with people that need to learn more about money, need to learn more about health. Make sure to follow Gary Brecka on all social media, and we're going to see you guys soon.